Thank you very much for being part of this presentation today. What we're going to be talking about is several topics that I use to work with my clients in building websites. So yes, I'm a web designer, and that's the ultimate goal, is to create a website for a client, but it's so much more than that. It's really about finding out what they want to do with their business and how that can help them grow their online presence. So we take a look at every aspect of their content marketing in order for us to get them where they want to go, and that is so dependent on strategy. So what do most companies around the world have in common? They need a strong, user-friendly online presence in order for them to get recognized and to be able to sell their products and help their clients understand who they are and what they're about. So when I work with clients, I talk about strategy as being central to everything that they're doing when it comes to growing their online presence. And this is actually the result of my strategic background in corporate America, in developing a process around strategy that helps us get to the ultimate goal, whatever that happens to be. And these particular topics are essential for growing an online presence, and in my case, building their website to do that. Now I'm going to go back a little bit to where I learned about strategy. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was a manufacturer's rep in California, and I called on independent retailers of all different types of businesses, everything from hospital gift shops to small apparel companies and in some tourist destinations, and they all had sort of the same goal, which was to sell their products, but they did it in many different ways. So when I was talking to them, I learned a lot about their businesses. I observed their clients, I witnessed what was being sold, I helped them with their merchandising, and I also decided that I needed to learn more about how they did that, especially with the clients who were successful, who had businesses that seemed to have a strong clientele and higher sales. So I started interviewing them, and the ultimate goal was to put everything that they taught me into a book. Now this is the result of that effort, at least the tangible result. It's called Pizzazz Works, The Magic of Motivational Merchandising. Now, if you fast forward to today, you would look at this and say, what was she thinking? I mean, is this like the worst headline title you've ever heard in your life? But at the time, it made sense to me. And the important thing is, it helped me build a following with my clients. This book was the result of something that happened along the way that was magical. I like doubled my sales because of this book. And why is that? Because I started looking at my customers strategically. I started understanding what their needs were, and I helped them with selling products that fit what they needed by pointing out things that were working for other clients, by helping them merchandise their stores in a way that would help them sell all of their products, and they really appreciated it. And they loved the attention, and they were happy to share. And the result, and they loved the fact that they were going to be in a book. So I became a trusted and enjoyable part of their business. I mean, that's what they told me. That's what was important. So everything I'm talking about today started with this book. So what we do is we talk about different aspects, and these aren't necessarily in chronological order. Some of them make sense to follow chronologically, but you know, when we're talking about strategy, we need to think about the whole picture, about wrapping your head around where you want to go in the future and why we're here working on this project. So we've talked a lot about system-based thinking, you know, with Kathy and Judy, and you know, putting processes into place that make this process easy. There is nothing easy about building a website, absolutely not. But what I try to do is take the complex and make it as simple as I can for the client, because they have a lot of other things going on. And as important as this is, I have to make it simple for them to produce this project. So we take a look at their goals, we take a look at the objectives and the tactics, and then we create a simple process around them to get to the end result. The first step, and this is chronological, is who are you? What is it you're looking to do, so people can understand, you know, what it is behind the goals that you have that we've set. And Cynthia knows with her communications, and some of you in the room who've been through this process, how important it is to understand your identity so that everyone else can. We go through where you are now, what the perception is of others, and also what is next. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about the handout that each of you has. It has all these topics on it. I produced a web presence survey and workbook that is based on all of these topics, which I'll be more than happy to share with all of you. This is just an opportunity for you to kind of follow what I'm doing and put in your own response to it if you can use this as a tool. It's something that's worked very well for me in interviewing my clients. Some of the clients like to go through the process in detail, others like to do it quickly. So this is the quick version right here. So what we do is we start with the website. Once we get the strategy down, we get the identity understood and where they want to go with all the look and feel and colors and how they want to appear online. We start with building the website, and I call that brand central, using a train station as an example of where we are now. This is like the meat of your business right here and your online presence. So if we take a look at a wireframe, this is just a basic overview of what a regular website would look like and how it would be formatted maybe for your business, or we'll work with something along these lines. So we look at all the different aspects that we need to come up with based on the strategy and also based on the identity that we've discovered at this point. Next to that, we start laying the social tracks out from the station so that each of the areas that they want to be in to spread their content, to grow their search engine optimization, to get noticed, need to be considered. And I also need to incorporate that into the website, so it's important for me to understand where they want to be and why. So we talk about where their audience is in each of the areas that are most important to them, for examples in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+. And then talk about how we can maximize all of those and coordinate them with the website so that it's most effective, with the lists, groups, and circles that can be created within these social networks. This is the sticking point. Hello, Dan. And the toughest, most challenging part for not only all of my clients, but for me as well. I think this is the area where you really get in the weeds, and you really have to think about what you need to have on your website to make a difference. And there are so many variables. You know, we try to start with the web pages. Obviously, that's critical to getting the website up and running, but there are other parts of it that will follow. Thinking about your strategy for your blog articles, coming up with the photography, the images in your graphic design, and podcast, video. I mean, it just goes on and on. So we do talk about that. So I have an idea of what they have in mind. It doesn't all have to happen immediately. Some of this can be incorporated down the road, but it's just important for me to know in order to start building what it is they have in mind. The next part of this is really important. We build bridges with email marketing, and almost every client I work with either wants to incorporate it in with their website or they want to bring it in down the road. And it's important for us to understand what their goals are with email marketing, because this is where we have an opportunity to really touch the client after the website is built. And it's essential to have that created when the process is taking place. And as we mentioned, yesterday we sent out the first email for Rockwood Bank. There was a lot of preparation strategy, template building that went on behind this. Actually, it was a great learning experience for me because I was able to understand how I can better utilize email in my own business as well as for my clients. Usually I'm last on the list when it comes to putting my own processes together. And so when I do it for a client, then I turn around and do it for myself. It's kind of a win-win from that standpoint. And this was really, really helpful. We worked very closely with Marketful to come up with a good strategy for the bank that we can use now and going forward. So another consideration is coordinating it with your collateral. So we talked about the digital assets that you might be putting into your website, but it's important to understand when you're doing your branding and identity process, how it affects everything else in your business. So we're taking a look more at the print and the handouts and the worksheets and the business cards, all the things that you would share with clients that are in addition to your web presence that reinforce who you are and what you're trying to do with your maximizing your online presence. And then the final stage of this is a topic that is important to understand from the strategic point of view, from the very beginning, because we want to analyze how all of this is working down the road. And so there are a lot of areas that we can focus on, such as Google Analytics, social media numbers, and email statistics, all of which come from the process that we've gone through from the beginning to this point. Again, it's not chronological, but it's something to consider when you are building your web presence. So now we're starting to have a website that looks like something. It has kind of a personalization, a customization, a feel, an understanding of how all of these things tie in together. So for example, we talked about the strategy. So maybe you're thinking about your navigation, how your users are going to go through the website. What's your strategy behind getting them to where you want them to go? We talked about identity. You know, what does your logo look like, and what are the colors and the look and feel, and you know, how your users are going to perceive your web presence. And then we talk about identity. Maybe it's your photographs, it's your video. Again, you know, the same kind of thing that's going to permeate through your website and also into other areas. And as far as content goes, that can be all over the map. But what do you want on your home page? You know, do you want to have your blog articles featured? Do you want to have photographs, slideshows? You know, that's part of this building process that we go through. And the other part, again, think about your collateral. You can have collateral on your website. Maybe that you have them download an ebook, for example, that can be part of you know, the other collateral that you have, such as a print book. And the email process, you want to have a sign-up form on your website. Where do we put that? How do we make that effective so there's a call to action, which is extremely important when you're building your strategy. And then again, there's the social, you know, the tracks that we've laid from our train station, basically, from our brand central, that go out and into the website so that people can discover what the content is all about and they want to come. Because that ultimately is what we're trying to do with all this, is get people back to the website so they can do the call to action. On my website, I do have an email sign-up form, and when you sign up for the newsletter, you can receive the download, which is Maximize Your Online Presence Workbook, which is the meat behind the topics that we just talked about today. It has the questions that I go through with my clients in my web presence survey to get them on the map so they can maximize their online presence. And you're welcome to sign up for the newsletter. I can send you a link to its PDF upload that I'd be happy to share with you. And I appreciate your attendance and open to questions if anyone has questions about the process or anything else.
Caren, what are some of the techniques you use to help people get through the weeds? Because I've been there many times myself, so I'm always open to new ideas.
Well, I have a template, a web page and blogging template that helps a little bit. It helps them frame what they need, you know, in terms of, you know, tools they can use to help come up with headline ideas, for example. And just kind of why we're, you know, like, what is your goal? Are you trying, if you're trying to get to a call to action, you know, that's, again, a process that I go through that can be somewhat helpful. And it's also an area that is important for perhaps a referral to a writer who will sit down and go through the process with a client so that they can, you know, develop the content for them. Because I build websites and I help with the content, but I don't write the content. So there are areas all through these topics, and this is what E4E does for me and for my clients, is all of us have certain skills in here that we can provide. I do not have expertise in all of these topics. There are areas where I can help them and I can create this like overall online presence for them. But if they need help with SEO or social media or presenting, I mean, you all have these AdWords, you know, there's so many different things that you all have to offer that I can share with my clients, and look for processes that you go through in order for me to help my client with your services. So that's a big part of this. It's one of the reasons why I decided to share this with all of you, because I'm looking for opportunities to pull people in from the partnership that can help my clients, because I know how valuable it can be for them.